right, we are live, for episode 1.
Episode 1.
Music sucks.
I guess my first question, we're doing Daft Punk, Random Access Memories, right? So, my first question is, how did you hear about this album? Like, when's the first time you heard about it?
Well, okay. Obviously, I heard, like, Get Lucky as a kid, actually.
Right.
In middle school, I used to jam out to that song, like, with my best friend. We'd walk through the mall and play it, thinking we were a chick, like, gonna get all the chicks with that song. Didn't work.
Yeah.
We never did get lucky, but that was my first exposure to that album.
Okay.
Until you started talking my ear off about it. That's why we actually picked this as the first one, because he had been hounding me to listen to this album, and I finally did, and then we came up with this idea, and then, well, since I had just recently listened to the album, he thought, perfect, let's do Ram for the first episode.
I heard it from Logan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back in high school. He was way into this album for a long time. He was telling me, I don't know, he was saying it was like his favorite album, so I had listened to it back in high school, and since then, I've liked it, and I mean, that's the first time I really heard about it, so.
Right.
But the Wikipedia page describes it as a few different genres.
Yeah, disco caught me off guard.
Yeah, but progressive pop, that's something that I feel
cool.
is probably the most representative of...
if you just do like electronic in front of like disco, then that makes sense. Or
I
heard Discovery was described as post-disco because it's like a futuristic disco type of thing. That actually makes sense for that album. And I think
right, I can see that. I can see that. This one, I definitely feel like is prog pop is a good title. I will say I do like how each song is almost like its own project. And it's not like most songs are structured like, okay, you have like a verse and then some chorus, and then like another verse. But these, I feel like, are always building up in a single project to like a climax. And they all, like every song, I feel like has good outros, or at least most songs have good outros. Like all the outros, like it all builds up to like the outro.
Yeah, oftentimes, one thing I will say with the album though that kind of caught me off guard, a lot of music that is held in really high regards by music critics is like concept albums where they tell a linear story.
Mm-hmm.
This does not. This is just a collection
I think they have
songs that they like.
Right. They have. I feel like the whole album is like a pretty, like, clear and general message, or like like its theme is pretty. It's pretty general. Like, it's like, okay, dance, love's the answer. You know, all that simple stuff that everybody knows. That's like, okay, this is real simple. It's all simple concepts. But I feel like a lot of people, this is why I like the album. This is why, like, people forget that kind of, like, the main message on a day-to-day basis, you know?
That's true.
It takes them, like, a while to, like, step back and be like, okay, like, maybe I'm overcomplicating things. Like, just dance, you know? Doing It Right, that whole song is just like, everybody's doing it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
it seems like, I mean, obviously Daft Punk is, like, it comes from like house music. They pretty much they put that genre on the map. So it's a lot of it is very danceable and fun. Like, I don't think there's a single song on here that you couldn't throw on and have some fun with. I mean, Touch is a little.
You don't like Touch?
I do like Touch, but not in like a club setting.
Right. I don't think I'd put Motherboard on in a club setting either.
But song is pretty cool.
The middle of that song, like, I would recommend most music. I would recommend listening to with headphones to get more of a three-dimensional experience. But
or good car speakers with surround sound.
What song was it? It was Within. What's the fourth track? What's the fourth track?
Well, I don't want to pull it up and show you my score. But
right there, track listing.
Okay.
Fourth track.
Within.
So at the end, the outro, they do this crazy thing with left and right channels where it like wobbles, and with headphones, that sounds crazy.
Cool.
But Motherboard, like right in the middle, when they have all those watery sounds, that like makes my brain melt.
Wild,
I love that song, dude. That song is
crazy.
Sweet. Other than that, Instant Crush, that is a really good song.
Oh yeah, that's
Lose Yourself.
Dude, a lot of
Dance.
these songs I felt like I recognized already.
That's the weird part is like this
Instant
album
Crush,
seems
I swear I have heard that.
totally recognizable. So.
And Lose Yourself to Dance, I swear I've heard that song before.
That one definitely has been played somewhere in
a lot. Like half of this album, I felt like I already knew. I don't know.
Right.
Even Giorgio.
And even me hearing that for the first time, I had the same feeling. So.
Even Giorgio, which I doubt I've heard in like a public setting, that song sounded very familiar.
Right.
That was a cool song too. I really liked on that song how he was like telling a story. It was just a dude talking, telling a story.
Yeah,
but,
he's just talking about his
as he
life.
like would say like a key word, they'd throw another instrument in that kind of like is
the
representative sound of that word. That was freaking cool.
He's an experienced musician, but he actually didn't do any of the. He didn't play anything. The only thing he did on that album was like talk about his life. They just said, and that's what Daft Punk did with most of the people featured on this album. Is they said, okay, give me something to work with. You won't know the final project. They recorded most of it in secret, and you just give me something to work with, and then you won't know the final product, and
really?
I'll mess with it. And yeah, I mean, most people were like, okay, like I walked into the studio, played some shit, and then
I have to say, of all of the people that they had on, my least favorite collaborative artist was definitely Paul Williams, dude. I don't know. There's something about how old people sing, just kind of cringe to me.
Right.
It's kind of like trying too hard. There's like there's a few words that he says that he puts a little bit of like spice on it. He like rolls his R's. I'm like, dude.
At the end of the song, when he talks, that's when I really appreciate hearing his voice. The lyrics to that song, like that's my favorite song. I'll say it now. Touch is my favorite song on the album.
That is a great song. Did you notice that when it kind of, because Touch has like 4 or 5 sections after he stops talking and it gets into like big band like swing section. It's exactly literally to the second at the middle of the song when that part starts to like glitch out and get all crazy. It's exactly at the middle point of that song, because I was trying to like get to that part because it's my favorite part of the song, and I noticed it's smack dab in the middle of the song where like that whole second half starts with the electronics and everything, which I think is pretty clever. I like that.
I know that they try not to be totally. They tried to do a lot of analog stuff with this. The only electronic stuff was drum machines. They built their own Moog modular synth, and then
that's cool.
They also used a vocoder, obviously. I mean, that's Daft Punk's.
So okay, that's one thing. I know. I'm gonna explain or tell you a bias that I have though against that. I respect Daft Punk and I like their music, but I just don't vibe with the super auto-tuned vocoder. It sounds.
I don't know if I do either.
Right?
I don't know if I do either.
I get the shtick that they're like robots or whatever. They got their masks on, but I don't. I think it would sound better with like clean, good vocals instead of the.
Which they include, but it's their signature thing.
I know. Panda Bear wasn't really vocoded much, and I think Pharrell Williams wasn't at all, right?
Yeah, they had a lot of just analog vocals. So
I would say Pharrell Williams' vocal sounded great, but when they do the whole, there's a whole lot of songs I can't even list them all where they have like the robot sounding voice, and I don't know. It's kind of hard to get into, especially if you're like new to the genre. Like I'm pretty new to electronic in general, so that was kind of a little off-putting. Took a little time to get used to, but I still like it. It's not like it's gonna ruin a song for me.
Is there any songs that you developed like a deep respect for?
Okay, so for whatever reason, the song that was the biggest earworm for me was "Doing It Right," and I would say that's actually the best usage of the robot voice, because it almost just sounds like an instrument of its own, because they just loop
that's kind of how they
loop it and loop it.
Yeah, that's kind of how they do it. And a lot of times they'll make their instruments sound like a vocal track.
Wasn't there a song? Wasn't there a song with like a vocal guitar solo where they vocode it and he kind of hums a guitar solo? Or is that? Am I crazy, or was that on this album? I swear.
I can't recall. I certain.
I think it was Game of Love. But there's a song with a guitar solo, but it sounds like he is just humming it with that really, really strong vocoder to where it sounds like an actual guitar solo, which is clever.
Yeah, that sounds interesting, but it's not something that I can recall right now.
Well, I can't pull out my phone to show you.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
Is there any lyrics? Like, how do you like it lyrically?
Okay. Lyrically,
like I said earlier, it's like pretty pretty basic.
Right,
Generic.
that's the thing. A lot of it is just dance, like party music, and a lot of it's very repetitive. Another thing that I'm kind of just another thing with Daft Punk, other than the vocoded vocals, that I'm not necessarily huge into is just how repetitive it is. Like I get the point because it's danceable, it's party music. But you don't want to switch it up. You don't want to switch the beats up all the time because people are like in a groove, right? But I like when songs kind of go more all over the place, which Touch does. That's why Touch is one of my favorites on this.
Right, it's a little different than. I'd say, like, it's the most different from all their other work.
That song is crazy. But lyrically, nothing necessarily really stood out to me.
I would just say Touch and Instant Crush stands out.
Touch, I would say. Like, Lose Yourself to Dance, there's nothing really to that song. It's just a fun.
Right, but that's just a good.
Yeah, it just sounds good.
That is actually the only song from this album that I will play when I'm working or something. Like, it's not something I'll get into.
Doing It Right is danceable.
Yeah, that's true. I like Lose Yourself to Dance more than Doing It Right.
Oh, wow, okay.
I think. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind.
So
they're both good songs.
Should I start to reveal my score?
Yeah.
Okay,
Show me what you ranked them.
Let me just say this. Top songs, the songs that I loved were Doing It Right.
Threes.
No, twos.
Okay.
Doing It Right, that song, I don't know, there's just something about it stuck in my ear. I like the verses, I like the chorus, I like the sound, it all was good. And Instant Crush is probably the most danceable, like the most fun song, the one that's the most like of a jam for me. So those two were my favorites. Touch would definitely be lovable if not for the first like 2 minutes of the song, or like a minute and a half of the song.
So you ranked it a 1?
Yeah, I like the song. I like the song. A 1 is not a bad score.
It's sure. Whatever
now,
you say.
There were 2 songs that didn't even get a 1. There were 2 songs that I thought were just okay, and I wouldn't really choose to listen to them on my own time.
I don't think I had any like that, but which ones?
So the first one was the intro song.
I can see that.
Just because I think like the really loud guitar solo is a little tacky.
Yeah.
And it's just.
I like it in the context of this album, but only in the context of this album.
It's just like it's kind of one of the more generic dance tracks.
Hold up, I gotta put Do Not Disturb on.
It's one of the more. It's like one of the danceable like party tracks. It's just the one of the lesser good ones in my opinion.
Right. It's definitely
like the hook isn't as. It's not as catchy.
It's probably my least favorite song on the album.
Okay,
I'll say that. Either that or the second one.
Game of Love, really? That song was slow. I liked the slow songs. I thought they were pretty.
Yeah, I would say or Beyond. Beyond's probably the most forgettable one for me. So
that is the one that I struggle to remember the most as well. But the other one for me that got a 0, kind of for the same reason, it almost kind of gives me the same vibe as Give Life Back to Music, was Fragments of Time.
What? That got a 0?
It does not stand out to me at all, that song, really.
It's the same vibe as like Get Lucky or Lose Yourself to Dance.
Get Lucky barely got a 1. If it wasn't for the really good guitar work on that song, I love the guitar work on that song.
The vocals are way nice.
Yeah.
Like all the production on this album is really good too. Yeah. So
I'm not. Yeah, I can't hate on that.
I did read something that they said. Okay, you go ahead and then I'll finish.
With that said, you told me yesterday that you thought this album would get like a 150, as in top 30 albums of all time.
Your top? Okay, well I guess
I
don't understand the scale.
Is 156.
Okay, yeah, I guess I don't understand the scale all that much.
So this album got a 92 out of a perfect potential of 300.
Which is pretty much impossible.
No, it's never happened. So this is what we got. We got all across the board likable, except another song I don't like. I forgot. Contact.
I just like the intro when it sounds like a guy. It sounds like an astronaut talking about. He's like, it ain't a particle.
Yeah.
But there's something out there. I don't know what it is.
And I respect the song, but when it builds up and it gets louder and louder and it gets more distorted, it actually kind of hurts my ears. I always have to turn it down. I'm like, dude.
I can see that. It's not one of my favorite songs either. I just like the intro.
Yeah, I do like the intro as well. So those 3 got 0s.
I don't know if you recorded it or sampled it.
And across the board, the rest are all likable. Well, I like all those songs, which is good. I mean,
fair.
You gotta think anything likable is in my music library. So majority of this album is in my music library, which is I would say is a win.
So you talk to quite a few people on a daily basis, right?
It's my job.
Would you recommend this album to anybody?
if they were into electronic music and somehow haven't heard this album.
So only if they were into electronic music, or is that where you draw your boundary? Because I would recommend this album to anybody, regardless. Yeah.
See, like I said, I think it is very danceable. I think it is catchy in a way that most people could jive with. But I think like the robot vocals would be hard for a lot of people to get into if they're not already into this genre. And
fair.
Fair. The length of a lot of the songs too. Most people are like 8-minute song. That's ridiculous. Or 6-minute song. That's way too long. Yeah, the average song length is only like 3 minutes.
I guess.
When I tell people I like songs that are almost 10 minutes long, they think I'm insane. That's like a quarter of an album for most people. But one thing that it
did top some charts though.
No, I'm sure. Get Lucky. Yeah, there's a lot of great danceable songs.
Which means that I'm sure people listen to it if they.
Right, but people are listening. People are definitely listening to Get Lucky and Instant Crush, not necessarily Motherboard and Contact. You know what I mean?
Fair.
And I do like Motherboard. I like the earthy sound effects, and it's an interesting song. I do like Motherboard. If I were to expect anything to change, and obviously this is the first time I've scored the album, so it's bound to change.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to expect anything in the future, I could see Giorgio becoming a +2. I could see Touch becoming a +2. Touch is
so you only have 2 +2s.
Yes.
Okay.
I could see Game of Love maybe potentially.
Okay, well.
But here's one thing that I have to say that I'm not sure you're gonna love. Discovery beats it out by 2 points.
2 points, that's fine. It's not gonna beat it for me if I were to rank it, but I like Discovery.
I went back through.
But Ram is like one of my top 10 albums of all time, probably. So
I went back through the album today actually, and a lot of the songs it got a 25-point bump.
Okay,
because I didn't realize how freaking awesome Voyager was, and whatever track 11 is called, and there was a handful that got +2s. Something About Us is also my favorite Daft Punk song. I'd say by far, actually. That's the only Daft Punk song that I could ever see becoming a +3.
Huh.
I really do like that song.
Okay, well, we'll have to do that album at some point.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great album.
I know something interesting about Ram. They apparently, I don't know exactly what sound effects they recorded, but there was a moment that they had gone into a restaurant and placed mics next to everybody's forks and got just the sound of people chattering and clinking.
Huh.
And, I don't know which song they did that, but I just read it and
okay.
I was like, damn, that's kind of crazy.
Listen out for that next time. Yeah, I definitely did not catch that.
Would you be like if somebody came into a restaurant and was like, and you did not know them? Like nobody knows these guys. They got masks. I mean, I'm sure they know them now, but it was recorded 2013, so
yeah, 10 years ago.
I don't know if they have they exposed their faces even to this day? Actually, that's something I don't even know.
Yeah, back in the day, their early.
Oh yeah, their early stuff they weren't wearing masks, so I don't know. I doubt people would recognize them though. So if somebody comes up and is like, "Can I put this mic here while you eat?"
Well, they're French.
Like I'd personally be like, okay,
it's France,
I guess, but
and I know they are very much about like their cafe and like eating culture. Like they have like an hour of the day that all businesses are shut down so that everyone can go out to eat and socialize. I'm serious, dude. I think it's noon. I'm pretty sure it's noon.
That's crazy.
So like, it's a very social culture over there in a lot of the parts of the country, from what I understand.
Right.
So I don't think it'd be as weird in France for somebody like, hey man, I'm working on something. Do you mind if I just set this?
Fair enough. Yeah, I think most of it was recorded in France. There was some stuff recorded in LA, but
cool. Yeah.
Let me see what I scored. Let me pull up my laptop real quick.
Very curious what you
92 compared to what? So this isn't gonna be. I don't have any recordings, so I just have to really. I mean, there's not much to record here.
Well, if you had it on the Excel, then I could pull it up in.
I just talk about it. So.
Okay. Dang.
So it looks like most every song was a 1, a 2, and 3 3s, and all 3 3s are back to back. Instant Crush.
That part of that section.
That middle section of the album. Actually, it looks like it's only 15 minutes, 20 minutes. 25 minutes in, and then up to like maybe 35 to 40 minutes is like perfect part of the album.
You
Instant
have it
Crush
198, which is where I have Wish You Were Here. So if I had the same score as you for Ram, it would be my 13th favorite album of all time. out of 200.
I mean, I did say it was in my top 10, so
narrowly misses out of mine.
I mean, it might not even. I don't know. I've never actually ranked them, but Instant Crush, Touch, and Lose Yourself to Dance, all 3s for me.
Right, that is.
All 3s. The last 4 tracks, all 2s. What are the last 4 tracks? Pull them up real quick. I don't remember. I don't remember what I ranked. Just pull up the Wikipedia.
I can just do this.
Or that, okay. Those were all 2s. Contact only got a 2 because of that intro. And like I'll listen to that song straight for the intro, and then I'll hear some noise behind it. I mean, I'm used to hearing noise. I like noise, so Doing It Right, definitely a 2. Fragments of Time. That's a good song. Motherboard, that part.
Not that good though. It's kind of just there's nothing special about that song.
Quit changing my mind. I'm kind of thinking it's a 1 now. I'm gonna leave it at a 2. I like it. It comes on. I'm like, all right, I can groove to this for a little bit. Motherboard, the last half, when they start making those weird, eerie sounds when it melts your brain with the watery thing, and I was just listening to it just barely, and I was like, oh, I had my eyes closed for a minute, and I was like, okay, this is a pretty repetitive, and then it, the middle part hit, and I just opened my eyes and was like, holy shit, that was probably I don't know, what's a good word? That was probably the most intense part of the album.
Yeah.
For me at least.
The part that stands out the most for me is the exact middle of Touch.
The exact middle of Touch.
Yep. That's when it starts glitching out from the swing section. That's the part for me that really stood out.
Okay.
That part was really.
That's definitely my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, just why do they have to have old man vocals?
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the old man vocals. Doesn't bother me. I'm like, okay, maybe this guy's got a story to tell me. Maybe he's probably singing out of a retirement home. But
I'm trying to think. There's some words that he says so over the top, he rolls the R's he's talking in old English.
Maybe it's normal.
Bro,
maybe he's talking
British.
normal.
But if he's British, that's even more cringe.
I don't know. He goes off for the first little bit, and I don't care much, but the moment that that middle section hits, and then it's kind of gets softer from there, and then it just starts saying, what does it say? It says, if love is the answer, you're home.
Yeah, that's.
And then that bass
with the orchestra too. There's an
orchestra.
It's a
super orchestral album too. Cool. They got tons of.
Yeah, that's a cool song.
And that's cool because for Daft Punk orchestras.
Right.
You wouldn't expect that. So I would definitely put people onto this album. I would say, this is a good album.
92. That's a good score for a first ranking. I did listen to this album a million times, a week straight of this album. So I feel like I know it like the back of my hand at this point. But I do still see some places where it could still grow on me. And so
it's grown on me over years.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm 23. I started listening to it when I was 17. So it's been 6 years, and it's been growing on me ever since. I don't throw it on. I only throw it on once or twice a year. I got a lot of other stuff I like to listen to, but it's every time I'm like, okay, it's time for Ram. And I'm like,
well, I'm 22. I started listening to this when I was 22.
Right, so you got some time.
Yeah, true. In fact, I rated it, 3 days ago?
Yeah. So, there was something else I was going to say.
Took a while to finalize everything.
Oh, I don't know. I forget. I've got a terrible memory. Started listening to it when I was 22.
Yeah, it's funny.
Okay, that was what I was going to say. So, it's kind of 92 out of 300. But not really, because if you were to absolute value the scale, it's really 492 out of 600, because you can go into the negatives.
Yeah, there's
negative 300 is the lowest, which is also impossible. It's like two ends of the no.
I feel like
it's probably more possible than a positive 300.
Because if you get into that really crazy noise, harsh noise music,
I like some of that.
Holstein, Mersbo.
Well, we'll do a review on.
No, I can't. I can barely get through one song. I'm serious. That could be a straight negative 300.
I probably got some stuff that would be a negative 300 for you that I like.
No way. You don't even. No way, dude.
Maybe something by Lightning Bolt or Black Pus, but.
Black Pus.
Yeah, there's some. Well. No, it's still like rhythmic. It's not just straight noise.
No, like Merzbow is literally just straight pulsating, like static noise. It's
I don't know. I got a lot of respect for this album, so.
But yeah, me too. It's a good album.
I'm glad. I think I told you the first time to listen to it like 6 months ago or something.
No, dude, you've been telling me I should listen to this album for like over a year now.
For over a year?
Dude, we've been hanging out at UPS for like 3 years.
I have a bad memory, so.
I know, dude. You've known this album since you were 17, and you still had to re-listen to it to remember the song Beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. I lose track of time after past like a week. No, like a month. After a month, I'm like everything is either 5 years ago or 1 year ago, and there's no distinction. I don't have any. It all kind of just blends into one palette.
Luckily for me with music, and not really anything else, but with music, once I know a song, it could be like a year or two down the line, and if it plays, I'm like, oh shoot, I've heard that song before. Like I always recognize it. There's some albums especially that like I listen to them like once or twice, and then like a long time down the line I re-listen to them, and I actually still remember like the whole album. Oh, there's some it's like
that never happens with me.
New Order has an album. What is it called? I want to say it's called Procession.
You can't remember the album name. I guess I don't remember names. I call shit by tracks.
That's the thing. Movement. It's called Movement. I listened to that album a couple times in like 2019. Or no, maybe 2018, and then I re-listened to it in 2020. I'm like, holy crap, dude! I actually still remember this whole album because it's just really good. I really do like that album, but I know you're not a huge '80s guy, so probably be lower on
worst decade.
2000s, worst decade.
Close second, but all right. Well, you got anything else on Random Access Memories, Daft Punk?
Keep on rocking, Giorgio, and. Hopefully the dude who was singing
That dude's
Touches.
still alive?
Yeah, hopefully. I was about to say hopefully not. I'm just kidding. Yeah, this album doesn't suck. It's good. It's a 92.
92.
It's a good score. It's good. Anything crossing 100 is in my top 100 favorite albums.
And if you were to go by the right, so
that's pretty good.
And technically a 0 would be like okay.
A 0
and
is
anything on the order of 10s would be good.
For a while I had I don't think there's any 0s right now, but for a while I had Certified Lover Boy by Drake at a 0, because it's so like it's so
yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of shit by Drake
inspiring
that's
and
right
that it's like I don't hate it because there's nothing strong enough to hate, but I also don't like it at all. So it was just pure 0. This album was a pure 0. But I've since I changed the formula to incorporate like the percentage that the songs take of the album, now it's a -3. So
plus 1 for a song is good, yep. And then 2 is likable.
No, 2 is lovable.
2 is lovable. I love and then song. Okay, so 1's likable, 2 is lovable, and 3 is
3 means it is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah. So on this scale, this is almost lovable. 92 out of 300.
Wouldn't it be almost likable?
No, 0 would be okay. On some order, all the orders of 10, 20, 30, 40 would be likable, but this is almost in the hundreds.
Okay. And then anything 200 and up would be
actually no.
Album? But the thing is, like,
so this would be an okay almost.
That's crazy. It's
almost
though,
likable.
Anything in the 90s.
For me, it's almost lovable. So then I guess it doesn't make the scale doesn't make sense at that point.
Well,
I
think it's better to go 300 to 200 as favorites. Because anything in 200 and above is
and then
literally
200 to 100 is lovable.
Yeah, I'd say that's.
I don't think that's because mine would still be in the 150s because the scale accounts for the like rating of the song. So I think the overall, I don't know. That's something I guess we can figure out another time. But
anything, like I was about to say, anything in the 200s is in my top 10 albums. So right. Yeah, it is literally one of my favorite albums.
Okay, fair enough.
So I would consider this almost lovable. Yeah.
I got a 198.
It's slightly more even.
Well, a 199.
So it's almost one of your favorite albums.
It is one of my favorite albums. If I were to think about it.
Well, if you were to rank, this is your first ranking. So
this is my first ranking, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But 198.5 out of a theoretical 300, which is impossible, and it gets a lot harder to get to 300 as you. Yeah. I mean, the higher you move up the scale, the harder it is to.
Yeah. It's the only reason I have an album that's even close to 300 is because it has 3 songs, and it's much easier to make 3 good songs than it is to make 13.
Right.
So, Yeah, if it wasn't for that
every song on this album for me is, I got 4 1s, 3 3s, and the rest are 2s. So
I'm sure we can show this to the people at some point too if they're curious to see your exact rating. So,
yeah, I mean.
And I was actually thinking of making my slides and my Excels public to view, but not to edit, obviously.
Right.
So if people want to see my bad opinions, then they have free access.
Plenty of them.
Free reign. Yeah, there's plenty of them to go around.
So 92, 198 and a half.
Well, okay.
Should I just round 199?
Here with, oh well, never mind. With my percentages, it's maybe slightly higher. Well, yeah, it is slightly higher.
What do you mean your percentages?
Or sorry, with a decimal, it is slightly higher.
Right.
So it's not a 92.0, unless it is. It actually could be. I don't
well, let's just round. So I'm 199. You're 192.
I could be 93.
Oh, okay. Well, you should put that in here. Put that on your slide.
The decimals?
Don't put the decimals, but round.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. All right. So 92, 199. I'd recommend it to anybody and everybody I talk to.
And I would recommend it to people who are interested in electronic music or already slightly familiar and into electronic music.
Fair enough. That's wrong, but
I'm glad you didn't rip my head off for liking Discovery more, because I do.
I mean,
for Christ's sake, I have
it's barely more.
It's barely more.
I would have both albums higher. Honestly.
I have. This is kind of embarrassing, but I have a Jack Johnson album that's higher.
Yeah, that is embarrassing.
Okay, but Jack Johnson was childhood music for me, so I like all of these songs just because
nostalgia.
It's like great, warming, happy nostalgia. Like I just listen to these songs, I'm like, oh man, throws me back to my childhood, which is better in many ways than right now. So rock and roll, baby.
Rock and roll. All right. Close up.
All right.
I guess we'll call that a wrap. That's Random Access Memories.
That's
episode 1. Salute.